Hello, Warhammer fans. Welcome to the Remington Steel Show, featuring Andy 2D6. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. Talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. Choose your own adventure now. It's easy to learn the rules. Hey! That's it.
That truly was a mighty instrument, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the mightiest that we've ever had on this show. Is that the largest instrument you've ever pursed to your lips, Remington?
This is a mighty horn of Valhalla. I would recommend everyone give it a little blow. Sorry, I didn't get much spit in the mouth then.
I don't think you're as proficient with that instrument as you are with some of the others. Is that safe to say?
No, hold on a minute. Let me just try and I'll get 10 seconds worth out of this baby. It's all about the lip action there.
It ended with a bit of a whimper, I think.
That's not bad for an old man. Come on.
Do you need some serious lung power?
I just need to stop smoking all this rubbish, don't I?
I'm gonna see if I can get a better didgeridoo sound than that without even getting an instrument in here. Hold on. How's that?
It's all right. It didn't have the cut and thrust of the Remington pipe.
Well,
anyway, anyone would think, Andy, we're stalling for time because there's absolutely no AOS news.
Well, they would be entirely wrong, because even though we may have had to scrape the bottom of the barrel, that's where all the best juices lie, actually. Because when you imagine that Age of Sigmar kind of puree that they've got in the barrel, all the thick, juicy goodness goes right to the bottom. So it's only when all the kind of horrible watery stuff at the top has gone, which it has this month, like, you know, leaks of war scrolls and impending releases and so forth. We don't need any of that nonsense, because we've got the extra juicy scrapings right from the bottom, and I think you're going to find them quite tasty.
And I tell you what, Andy, speaking of bottom of the barrel stuff, I've had time in my mind, which is just like a whole team, a think tank on its own, working inside here, and these cogs have been whirring furiously. And I've come up with $2 million ideas, and one of them was admittedly initiated by one of our viewers, Mickey Genver, but Remington's elaborated and made it into something real. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get $2 million ideas. And remember where you saw it first. It wasn't on Duncan's GW channel, and it wasn't any information given by Andy to said Duncan. It's 100% original Remington. Okay?
We're going to get insight into the mystical mind of the Remington. But before that, folks, let's see who's in the audience tonight, shall we? Because, as usual, a packed house. We've got Ads Hintoa, Bazooka J. Rambo, Gloomdready Gaming, Lee Cunningham, Mickey Genver, Mini Warrior, Merc Wood, Oric Love God, Rick Vaz, Skeleton Flower, Stu Gibson, Tabathist23, Thomas, Newbie, Wasgob, Lady Phoenix, and I think there's a couple more who were commenting earlier but aren't on the active users list because they haven't said anything in the last 5 minutes, and YouTube does like to discriminate like that. So if I see any other names in there, then I may point them out later on. But despite the lack of Age of Sigmar news, I think we should dive straight in because we have got some stuff to look at. First of all, let's take a look at something from our sponsor, shall we?
Oh, let's.
Now, this model right here, converted and painted by Blight Forge, our sponsors and commission painting service. Now, this looks to me like a kind of aged maybe Gotrek and Felix. It looks kind of like Felix, who's lived through the end times, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's come out the other side, like at the end of the Excalibur film, where all the knights of the Round Table are like old men, and they've become raving mad flagellants.
Yes, now this is doubly exciting because this model is actually going to be the first What the Hell Is That prize sponsored by Blightforge. So that we've got 3 entrants already for this prize, and we're going to be getting a couple more before we do the live draw on a future episode, which will be for this very model.
Wow.
So there you go. Very, very exciting times ahead. And so we'll look at that again later, I'm sure. I
tell you what, that's got to be worth something. That, with Gotrek, is going for like 30, 40 pounds unpainted. But what about, painted by an expert? Worth double that, surely. What a prize.
It is quite a prize indeed. I like the glow effect he's got going on in the sword there. And the eyes look very kind of sunken, and it just looks really, really worn down, doesn't he, in the facial region?
Yeah, and speaking of flagellants, I've got some news about them. But I'll wait for you first, Andy. Go.
Well, next up. Now, I went into the Age of Sigmar section on the GW website, of course, expecting to be overwhelmed with a cascade of releases. And what do you know? There's absolutely nothing. In fact, if we look at the new releases, there's just that Warhammer Quest Silver Tower bundle.
Oh,
so
what's the bundle?
Well, the bundle is the game plus a little extra thing, which is the book, I think.
The Labyrinth of the Lost. Okay, this sort of fleshes out the heroes, doesn't it, in the game?
Well, it doesn't add that much to the actual value of a game as far as I'm concerned, because I'm not a big lover of the fluff books. But for someone like you, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, wow, when did this come out? 6 months ago or something? 5 months ago? I'm still painting the figures out of this thing. It's a fantastic deal.
We haven't even got a game out of it yet. We need to get one in soon, don't we?
I know. I've got a game with the lads at school in our wargaming club. I'm going to bring out this box and see how far we get with it. But with only an hour, I don't know how far. But, they're all into Age of Sigmar now.
The other thing, we already heard about Gorechosen. It was announced quite a bit in advance. But we've actually seen on Warhammer TV in the last few days, they've had a little trailer for it, and then they showed us how to play, which I did watch before this, so I know what I'm talking about a little bit. Of course, all these miniatures are lovely, but we've already looked at all of them when it was first announced.
Yeah, these are brilliant, man. I'm definitely getting this one. Definitely. It looks, I mean, like, you only got to paint 4 miniatures, right? So it's really quick to get into.
And not only that, but the Khorne miniature that came free with White Dwarf as well will equally be usable in this game.
Nice.
So the way it works, based on the Warhammer TV video, which offers a very, very good explanation, by the way. You each have a deck of cards that you shuffle together, and then whoever's card comes out gets to take an action. And the more wounded you are, the more cards you have, I think. So it kind of levels the playing field. So if you're losing, you'll get more chance of going next, kind of thing. And then each card that you can then play when your turn comes up has different actions on it, like hit somebody with a big stick. And I've read somewhere that you can push people into fire pits if they're standing in the right place. So it all sounds very fun to me.
It's all fantastic, Andy. I mean, I have to admit, GW were a step ahead of me on this one, because the game that I've been developing is very, very similar to this.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it's actually called Gorechosen. And it's a kind of a fighting pit cave, but it takes place in the caves of the Drukai. So it's like very much like this, but you have witch elves instead of Gorechosen. And instead of weapons, they claw each other with their nails. Well, I thought it was a good idea anyway, but just one of many.
Well, let's put that in the $1,000 idea section, shall we, rather than the million?
Gorechosen.
So this card here, I believe, shows you how many potential action cards you're going to get shuffled in to the deck. So if you're doing really well, you only get 2, for example. I think everyone will start at 3, which is why that one there is highlighted. And there are certain actions you can do that would then reduce your number of cards next turn, I think, because they're so powerful. And you get quite a lot of components in there for £35, and 4 miniatures that all generally cost about £18 each. So very, very good value, and it's definitely got your name all over it. Just small model count, really nice detailed miniatures that you can spend a long time painting. That's Remington to a T, really, isn't it? I'll take that as a yes.
The chat's going crazy at the minute with, everyone's loving Witchcoven. But, Gorechosen, maybe it's a good sort of a starter box set, before that one comes out. So I'd thoroughly recommend this one.
Also, for those people who like a couple of games of Age of Sigmar, or maybe one gigantic game of Age of Sigmar, and you end up with an extra hour after the game, you don't have time for a full other game of Age of Sigmar, so you just pull out something like this and go nuts, don't you?
Yeah.
You could get a couple of rounds of this in quite easily. And I noticed on the video, they didn't refer to them as players, they referred to them as combatants. For 2 to 4 combatants, he said, not players. There's a lot of very brutal, bloody language they used in the trailer and all that.
Yeah, I like, as your character gets wounded, there's a little picture of them in each stage of, being crushed. I like those little pictures. They look cool.
It reminds me of the old PC games where you'd have the little character's face like Doom, and the more damage you take, they start to go like blood pouring out of their eye socket and everything.
Doom, that was scary, man, back in the day. You play that with the lights turned off. Pretty cool.
You undoubtedly got some eye strain from doing that, I'm sure, Mr. Remington. It's not recommended to play games in the dark,
Now, there's lots of ideas going crazy after they've heard Witchcoven. We've also got an orc fighting pit game being proposed, and also a Stormcast one, which I think Games Workshop will go straight for. Anything with Stormcast, they they get ecstatic over that.
Stormcast dueling for Sigmar's honor.
Dueling for Thunderdome. Dueling for Sigmar's honor. Yeah.
The orc one would definitely work. I saw that Dreddy said orc clobbering pit, and they should have done that instead, apparently, instead of corn. That could work.
I like it.
There have been orc-themed games before, in 40k at least, with Gorka Morka. Have they ever had any orc-themed fantasy standalone games? Can't think of one.
Is Gorka Morka the one where they're in those little war wagons?
Yeah, they're all in trucks, kind of Mad Max style.
Yeah. Well, they did have Snotling Fling, the iPhone game.
I'm sure you've mentioned this quite a few times before.
I did. But it's there. It's true.
Is it still out there? Snotling Fling?
Yep.
Which isn't a dating app, by the way.
We've got another one here. Trolls in the Pantry. I like that. How about a troll slayer finds his way into... No, yes, a layer of trolls, and he's got to kind of get some food. In fact, what about a halfling? A halfling walks into... That sounds like Lord of the Rings now, doesn't it? Okay.
How about... I've got this $1 million idea. How about a halfling has this magical necklace, you see, but it makes people go crazy, but it wields unlimited power, and he has to cast it into a river of ice.
What if it just bounces off the surface because the river's iced up, though?
It's icy, but it's kind of slushy ice, so it would sink. What do you think?
Ice slush, a game for halflings. Maybe.
Halfling cookery game?
I like that.
I'm not sure halflings are entirely on the agenda as far as GW are concerned, though, so I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
No. Well, I stumbled upon, this is my bit of news, the TGA community, which if you don't know what that is, you really should join it because it's pretty cool. Do you know what that stands for? TGA?
That is the Grand Alliance, isn't it?
That's right. And within the Grand Alliance community, there's like hot topics going, there's paint threads, there's news and rumours. And I always go straight to the rumours because we're all desperate to know what's happening next. And there's been a right party pooper thread going on in this one. Basically, the exponent of this particular thread says that there's going to be no new Age of Sigmar releases before Christmas. In fact, none before New Year. At Christmas, we might get some box sets and some, maybe some new scenery. But this guy just says it ain't happening.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not having that. I'm going to take that with not even a pinch of salt. Maybe a pinch with a giant industrial grabber of some kind.
And
that kind of pinch.
it gets worse, Andy, because the same guy says anyone who believes that Steamhead Duardin's coming up soon is living in the same world as Bretonians and Tomb Kings.
Well, I don't think that guy can be taken seriously after a comment like that, because we all know that the Steamhead Duardin are imminently on the horizon. Maybe potentially underground, but still technically the horizon.
And we've been rumoured, on the rumour mill, it's been going around that this is the year of Zinch. So we're expecting some kind of Zinch. And I can see that happening because you've got some Zinch models in the Silver Tower. So they might release them en masse, so to speak.
There's definitely going to be something Age of Sigmar related in the next few months. I would expect something in the next couple of weeks, because it's been quite a while.
Well, there's been a few counters in this thread. And one person is saying, well, because of the new techniques GW employ, they can go from design to packaging to marketing and distributing within 2 months. So potentially something really could happen.
So if there's enough uproar, if people are on the Age of Sigmar Facebook page really demanding that we get Steamhead Duardin now, maybe we won't get them, but maybe we'll get something, even if there's nothing planned.
Exactly. And who knows, there's still time for them to, maybe pay me off if we come to terms and develop and manufacture Witch Coven for the general public. It could happen.
It could. If they could do that in 2 months, I would be very impressed. And of course, they would then claim that, well, 2 months surely isn't enough time to rip off an idea and get it into production out there in the shops. So how could we have possibly stolen Remington's idea? Exactly. I say, as I'm texting my inside man at GW.
Exactly. And they've done popping out videos every day of hands of witch elves with bloody claws and bitch slapped hands. It's going to happen.
Your microphone went a bit fuzzy for a second there. Did you perhaps nudge it with your face?
Yeah, it's this beard.
Oh, there we go. His internet was temporarily cutting out. I think you're back now. Apparently, according to Dreddy, it's the year of the Scuttlings. I'm not entirely sold on that.
You're going to need a lot of those things because they're weak.
They are. I think your internet is really going nuts at the moment, Mr. Remington. I think you've got a bit of a delay going on.
Give me a second to sort that out.
You're not running any kind of illicit downloads, are you? I certainly hope not. Well, I'm going to go to the comments while Mr. Rem's internet steadies itself. So, let's see. What have we got here? After the Orc Clobbering Pit idea and the Stormcast idea, apparently there was already an Orc fighting game. According to Gil Berg, there was a fantasy orc fighting game in White Dwarf 223, which I could go and check, but I would have to actually get up. Because I was going through all the old White Dwarfs, actually, all the way back to about 197, all the way up to past 300, to see how they measure up with the current White Dwarf, and then I'm going to do a video comparing and contrasting and deciding whether the new one measures up to the old days, which is going to be very, very exciting for people. Mini Warrior, so 40k and AOS are taking 6-month turns. I certainly hope not, because I don't think we could keep the show going for 6 months with no new content. That might be a stretch.
Well, especially as Andy has his new pirate show on a Friday.
Pirate show?
Yes, revealing all our content before our show goes out. I'm talking the White Dwarf reveal you did on Friday, which was supposed to be on the agenda today.
It is on the agenda. I only looked at it and didn't go in depth. We didn't actually touch on any of the juicy Age of Sigmar content found within the pages of White Dwarf.
There you go, lads. Just another chapter in Betrayal at Remcon.
Constantly undercutting Remington, stabbing him in the back, texting his ideas to GW. I've actually got a live chat going on my phone right now with Duncan. So anytime I want to send him any juicy info, any ideas you might have that haven't reached him yet, because there's a slight delay, of course, on the stream before it reaches the public eye. So I give him those extra few seconds by directly texting him here any information. So you've got no chance.
Well, listen, I could certainly offer Duncan a few fashion and styling tips, if nothing else.
And in return, I'm sure he could tell you to thin your paints.
Aha! It's funny you mention that, Andy, because I think this is due time for the first of Remington's $1 million ideas. Are you ready?
Does that segment have a theme tune now?
Oh, it ought to. It really ought to. I need to work on that. Maybe you could post some lyrics down in the chat.
Yeah, anyone who's got any suggestions for $1 million Remington idea lyrics, get them in the chat right now. And then we'll use them for the second idea of the night. But let's have the first one.
Okay, here comes the first one. Oh, God. Oh, don't say that. It's not saved it. Just give me a minute here, Andy. Just stall them for a second.
I think Duncan has actually hacked into your computer and hijacked that file.
Where the hell is it?
Ads Hintoa says, ask Duncan to smile. Well, he does kind of smile. He gives it a kind of half smile, like with his head tilted like so. Thomas, what's Rem's beef with Duncan? Well, I think Remington feels that he has stolen one or two of his ideas, possibly with my help, which I would vehemently deny, of course. Let's see. YouTube newbie, is Duncan telling you to thin your paints and apply many thin coats instead of one thick one? That seems to be the gist of many of his videos, yes. Of course, some of us are still too lazy for that and enjoy applying just one thick coat. And some of us already thinned our paints. But I'm sure there are people out there that previously didn't use multiple thin coats and now do as a result of Duncan's fine work. So let's not slander him too much. Mickey Genver has posted some lyric suggestions.
Oh, do say.
And I'll let you look at that so it's not revealed without it being in musical form. Auric Lovegod says, is Duncan telling you to prime your miniatures? Because, Mr. Rem, you have been the central figure in the very controversial topic of should miniatures be primed or not. The community is somewhat divided on the matter. You say it's not necessary. Everybody else says it is necessary.
I say it's not necessarily necessary. It's not necessarily necessary. It depends what your gaming group's like. If they've got grubby wargaming fingers, then yes, prime, double prime, triple prime your miniatures, right? But if you're, working with, accomplished and graceful gamers, then there should be no bother because they won't be damaging your miniatures. And, I could give you guys a few tips on how to store and transport your miniatures safely so they won't get chipped or broken as well.
Well, on that topic, Dreddy actually has a comment here. Is Duncan telling you to varnish your miniatures and not just toss them in a box for transport?
It's. I wouldn't go that far. Just call it road testing. All right. And with that in mind, I am finally ready to share with you Remington's $1 million idea. It's the 6th of September. It's just past 10 p.m. Now, we all love painting, right? And at some point, we've all used Citadel paints, right? And maybe you use Vallejo paints or B3 paints or, other companies. But none of them, as far as I can tell, have developed a wash which is for going over the color white. And I'm proud to share with you, straight from the think tank of Remington, a brand new product. It's called Remington's Woodsman Whitewash.
Okay, how does it work, Mr. Remington?
Well, you put on a paint color or two, and then you get a paintbrush out, and you don't have to mix it with water, unlike Citadel paints. And it's basically quite a clear liquid, quite watery actually. And you just put it onto. It's kind of, how to describe it? It's like a glaze and a shade mixed together. Yeah.
Well, I think everyone in the audience is awestruck right now.
I know, I can just feel that silence. They're just thinking, damn, why didn't I think of that? Well,
apparently, Auric Lovegod says they've already invented something for that purpose, and it's called ink.
No, they haven't. Get lost. It's not called whitewash, I can tell you that much. Remington's whitewash. Remington's Woodsman's. Well, I can't even say it clearly. It's that good an idea. How about that?
Oh, Dreddy says this product was already used at the Oscars. Boom. We're getting political in here now.
I like it. I do like it. Now, I'm just thinking of other ways you can use this. How about if you're painting pygmies, right? You're painting pygmies, and pygmies, as we know, like to use white war paint on their bodies. What do? Well, you ask for Remington's Woodsman Whitewash, and hey presto, you'll get those white painted style war paint on those models. I mean, you can use it on Savage Orcs, on Lizard Men, and that's not even using it as its proper function, which is a wash. What would happen if you base coated it black, and then you dipped your whole miniature in a pot of Remington's Woodsman Whitewash? What would happen? Well, I don't know, but it's worth finding out. The possibilities are endless.
Ads Hintoa wonders why it says exterior on it.
Well, I can't actually reveal the answer to that just yet. And the reason why is because it relates to another product in the Remington conveyor belt of $1 million ideas. So that's, well done for pointing that out and seeing that, but I can't reveal that information just yet.
Maybe something to do with an outdoor miniatures table. Interesting. Outdoor miniatures paints a new line starting with Remington's Whitewash. Now, I will say that product, that's clearly just a mock-up. That's not the actual product because it's not available yet. But that is not the worst piece of Photoshop we have on tonight's show. I'm going to reveal that now. But before we get on to any of that, we're going to look at one thing very quickly before we talk about White Dwarf a bit. So, as I'm sure everyone in the audience is very interested in, Cheeks. This is the latest character to pop up for Cheeks. This is Larry the Lawyer, who is now a finished piece of art.
Oh, interesting. That's amazing. What are his special rules, Andy? Does he charge you loads of money and just take ages to do anything?
Larry the Lawyer, the last time I added anything to the rules, I actually completely rewrote his special rule because it was overpowered. But I think it's still called Objection. But I can't remember what new rule I added in there. So I'll have to get back to you on that. Maybe I'll reveal that next week. But it is pretty much all finalized now. The final rules for Cheeks have gone off for translation into German, so they're set in stone now. And the character rules could potentially still be tweaked, but all the art, hopefully, should be finished within the next month and then sent off to the printers with any luck. Just relies on the artist, basically, getting it all done on time.
Now, I heard a rumor, Andy, that there was going to be an Andy 2D6 character in Cheeks and possibly a Remington Steel. Is that still?
There is. There's going to be both of them in there. There's going to be Andy the A-lister and Remy the rock star.
So those ideas are still on the cards.
Yep, they're still on the cards. They're not on the cards yet, but they are on the cards. The art hasn't been finalized for them, but when it is, then you'll hear about it here first and you'll see it immediately. So, let's talk about White Dwarf, shall we? Because you've actually read it now, and I finished reading it. I finished reading the battle report. So, let's get your initial thoughts on this magazine, shall we? Before we go into any specifics.
It's kind of like when you ever seen a film called Cold Mountain?
I don't think so.
Well, some of you might have seen this film. Nicole Kidman and another famous guy.
I've seen Ice-tastrophe, if that counts.
No, it's Cold Mountain. It looks really good. It looks like, an epic kind of American Civil War battle, tale of redemption. But actually, it's a chick flick in disguise. Now, this month's White Dwarf is stunning, but you kind of get the feeling that you've just been, if you're an AOS fan especially, that you've just kind of been, However, you got this miniature for free, so I'm not complaining, but I really wanted to see more AOS content, and unfortunately, there was like pages and pages of 40k, and then half a page of AOS.
I think overall, in total, it was probably like 60% 40k, the magazine, I think.
Well,
It
okay,
wasn't as high as we possibly feared.
and then about 20% of other stuff, new game rules and stuff, and then a little bit. Well, I tell you what I'm missing. What I was missing was some AOS fluff. The only AOS stuff in there is, of course, Stormcast and Bloodbound, and it would have been really good to flesh out a bit some of the, the ogres, or some bone splitter tales, or introducing maybe some new characters from other factions. So I was just disappointed with that a little bit.
I felt like part of the issue was there were a few elements in there that were introducing us a bit to Age of Sigmar. I don't know if you noticed that. They were approaching some of it as if people had never heard of it before.
All right.
So maybe there's a bit of that to it, and that's why. Because they've got the intro series, the whole Tale of Four Warlords thing, which is Age of Sigmar themed.
Oh, well, yes, there is that, yes.
And they've got the gigantic Age of Sigmar battle reports, which I don't know about you, I felt it was a little bit too big, actually. It got quite difficult to follow what was going on when they had two very similarly named Bloodthirsters. I think they had 3 Bloodthirsters, actually. 2 Star Drakes. I think it would have been better to just keep it a bit more simple. But obviously they wanted to have something crazy and epic for the first one.
I think they probably could have condensed that bit down to half a page and videoed them as battle reports on Warhammer TV. I think that would have been much more engaging and easier to follow rather than drawings with lots of arrows on.
I think they could certainly do both. But it did get quite convoluted because the battlefield was so huge. And they didn't have any of the old kind of illustrated maps they used to have in the old battle reports, where they would just have little logos for each unit and show you where it moved. They did have the full high-quality images with arrows on those, which I'm looking at right here, which will give you a quick example there.
Nice. And also, they're starting to introduce like the figureheads at Games Workshop, the personalities, which, again, I think's come from probably them watching our channel and seeing what A-listers can actually bring to the community, rather being like a faceless Willy Wonka kind of, behind the Iron Curtain company. They've come out and, they come out and say, look, this is our top paint guy. This is our silk cut smoking painting guy. Which is all good. And of course, they've got the John Blanche page, which is always awesome. I'm always looking at his miniatures thinking, how on earth did he paint it like that? So, it's got that sense of wonder still, which is cool. And, it kind of was starting to turn me into a bit of a 40k fan, I'm sorry to say.
Oh, my.
And I tell you the reason why is because that box set, Death Watch.
Yes.
Oh, my God. You got like all them Harlequins, which are awesome, and then you got boring Space Marines in black. But all together, it seemed like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, those boxed games are generally a really good deal.
Yeah.
So you're thinking you might jump on something like that then?
I'm just looking at them thinking,
just to paint them,
really
maybe.
nice figures. And then they had like this kill team, and it was like £40, and you get like 7 Space Marine mercenary blokes, but then you get like one guy. He looks like a Sons of Anarchy biker, and I thought, yeah, that looks pretty cool. But yeah, loads of 40k products. I was just kind of, because I'm a fan of the other races, so we didn't get much of that in AOS this month in White Dwarf. But who knows? Who knows what's coming up next?
What you're saying is you've been primed for 40k, so that when they simplify the rules in the next edition and bring it closer in line with Age of Sigmar, you're ripe to be plucked into that line, are you?
I'm not saying that. I just think some of the figures look brilliant. I don't know.
If you could play with the simple rules of Age of Sigmar, but with an army of, let's say, Harlequins, because you think they look pretty damn sweet, you would potentially give that a try, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I could paint them that well, though. Especially the Harlequins on those jet bikes. They look amazing. I don't know how they get that, those Harlequin-y paint effects that seem to fade on the dashboard of their, like, sky bikes.
Well, airbrushing, that's what you need for that. Or maybe just some really hardcore dusting. Dusting
and whitewashing. That could certainly do it. In fact, here's another use for the Remington Woodsman whitewash, is if you want your paint to sort of fade away, there you go. Get the whitewash out.
Right then. Apparently, Mickey Genver thinks you've been replaced with a clone. This is not the Rem we know and love, because the real Remington would never speak positively about 40k. I don't know.
Come on, I've been a stalwart of fantasy. In fact, I bought the PC game Warlock of Fight Up Mountain the other day, and I've been playing that quite a lot, and it's quite good fun. And yeah, that was developed by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson back in 1982, and they were two of the three founding members of Games Workshop, which I believe started in 1975. And they sold the company in 1991 for guess how much, Andy?
Let me guess. In 1991 money.
Yes. How much did Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson sell their shares in Games Workshop for? I'm going to give you 10 seconds because someone out there is looking it up on the internet right now.
I'm going to make a guess at £250,000.
£250,000. 9.
Are we talking it's higher than that?
Higher.
£1 million.
Yo. Let's see in the chat. Does anyone... No one's... Oh, someone's put Bazooka Joe Remington. I mean, Rambo has put... I can't even read that number. There's so many noughts after it.
Like 7 quintillion or something he's put there, which I don't think is right.
A bacon sandwich? Possibly not. No. I mean, Ian Livingstone ended up getting his CBE. Do you know what CBE stands for?
It's the something of the British Empire.
Certified member of the British Empire. Something like that. No, they sold it for £10 million.
Oh, that's more than I thought.
10 million. And now I think it's worth about 126 million.
I thought you were going to be asking us that trivia because you thought it was shockingly low and look how much it's worth now kind of thing. But that actually sounds like a good price in 1991 money, doesn't it?
It's not too bad. And listen, by the end of the year, I'd have easily had, £10 million worth of ideas. So I could have bought it off them. Just in ideas.
So if you could travel back in time and give yourself some of these $1 million ideas back then, would you actually buy Games Workshop from them on the back of those funds?
Yeah, I would. And do you know what I'd do? I would introduce a new race or flesh out some of the kind of oldie worldy races like Pygmies, the Arabi warriors and the Cafe warriors. I'd bring them all back in. I mean, Games Workshop used to do ninjas. Did you know that, Andy?
Is there anything Games Workshop didn't used to do?
No, they tried to hand it everything. But respect, they've done all right, haven't they?
They certainly have done all right. Now, I think it's time. We've got 2 very juicy segments tonight. First of all, we've obviously got What the Hell Is That coming up in a short while. And after that, we've got a brand new segment called Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, wow. Love it already.
In which Mr. Remington is going to attempt to tackle the most dangerous labyrinth known to man, which is...
Andy Palooza?
My mind. You're going to take a journey, and it's going to be quite perilous. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I love it. Well, look, I came prepared, ladies and gentlemen. I brought the fabled Remington skull dice.
Yes, so that's definitely going to be coming up when a dice roll is called for, which may happen from time to time. So before that, Mr. Remington, are you prepared to give us the What the Hell Is That theme tune?
Oh.
While we look at this month's prize, and then as soon as you're finished with the theme tune, I will switch over to this week's What the Hell Is That, which is Vandus Hammerhand themed.
All right, here we go. Are you ready for the reveal, Andy?
Yep, give us that song.
Now, what do they have to do? Do they have to guess what's in the picture?
Well, when the picture pops up, they will notice that it is Vandus Hammerhand's head, but on his 4 tentacles, each one of his hands has been replaced with a hammer. And the first person to identify the miniature, all 4 hammers, whoever names the model that those 4 hammers are from, first will be the winner.
Oh, wow. Cool, man. What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy and Remington know. Wow.
Right, there we go. As you can see, it is clearly the head of Vandus Hammerhand.
And
But
the body of Dr. Octopus.
yes, so where are these hammerheads from? 4 miniatures for you to name. First one to get all 4 is going into the draw for that beautiful Felix miniature.
That is ingenious, Andy. I've got to tip my hat off to you there. You've really nailed this idea.
I've really hit the nail on the head with a hammer, if you will. Apparently Bazooka J. Rambo knows the top one. Well, that's no good. You have to know all 4 of them. And if you just post one of them, you're just helping out your opponents, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, now that is a hammer at the bottom that I don't recognise, with a skull chiseled and blazoned, embezzled. I've forgotten the word, but it's inside the hammer.
How many of them do you think you recognise?
With that one on the right, top right, it definitely looks like something from the Forces of Order.
You think you know that one, do you? Do you think you have any of the others lurking in your mind there? Or have any of them totally stumped you, shall we say?
The top one. The top one is stumping me. None of these are from the Chaos Dwarf Tenderizer, are they? No. That's going... I'm showing my age there again.
Oh, we've had our first guess from Mini Warrior, who says Retributor, Longbeard, Warrior Priest, and Dwarf Cannon Crew. So I'm going to tell Mini Warrior that he has 2 out of 4.
Wow. Impressive.
So 2 of those were correct. I'm not going to tell you which ones. Oh, we've got another guess from Mickey Genver. Dwarf Hammerers, Vandus Hammerhand, I've got a hammer, Hammerhead Shark. No, none of those are correct. Vandus Hammerhand's head is in there, but you don't need to specify that in order to win. That's not one of the answers we're looking for. So, come on, Mini Warrior is winning at the moment with 2 points. Can anyone beat that and go into the draw for that amazing converted painted miniature? Come on, folks. What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy, not Remington, knows.
Not Remington. Remington doesn't know this one.
Oh, we've got a suggestion here, a guess from Gil. White Dwarf Limited Edition, Retributor, Empire Warrior Priest, Dwarf Thunders. I'm going to assume that means Thunderers. And I can tell you, Gil, that you have 3 of them correct. So 3 points for Gil. So Gil moves into the lead. I'm assuming it's Gil and not Jill, by the way, but it could be either. We'll need some clarification on that. Dreddy has given some answers, but they're all very German sounding. Come on, we've got 3. Can anyone beat 3 and get that 4th elusive one before I start giving out clues? I don't think it's too difficult this time.
Well, that one on the left, bottom left, looks a little dwarfish. Am I in the right ballpark there?
I think you might be. I'm going to tell people now that 2 of them are a little bit on the dwarfish side.
Ooh.
Terry Williams has guessed, but hasn't given 4 guesses, so I'll leave that one out. And yes, you are allowed to guess again. For anyone who's guessed once already, you can guess as many times as you like, but keep in mind you're just giving other people the opportunity to steal your answers. So 3 is still the highest answer so far. I'm going to give away a clue if the next couple of guesses are not correct.
Well, Andy, shouldn't we remind our audience what is at stake here?
Well, yes, let's have another look at the prize, shall we? You'll go into the draw for this if you win this round. There are already 3 people in the draw. Skeleton Flower was one of them, definitely. I'll have to have a look and see who the others were, but I have made a list, so I'm not going to forget anybody. This could be yours from Blight Forge, the commission painting service, whose prices are very reasonable and standards exceptionally high. So here we go. Okay, we've got Raphael Marge says, White Dwarf Limited Edition, Runesmith, Chaos Warrior, Retributor. 3 points.
Wow. I think some real nerds out there, isn't there? Bloody hell. You're doing great, guys.
Mini Warrior, Warrior Priest, Retributor, Limited Edition White Dwarf, Warrior Priest again, and Runesmith. And I'm going to tell you that Mini Warrior has won.
Wow.
Right, so to identify each hammer, this one at the top here is actually from a limited White Dwarf model. It was the kind of the sci-fi one who was holding up a goblin.
Yep.
This one here is from a Retributor.
Yep.
Stormcast Eternals, of course. This one here is from a Dwarf Runesmith.
Nice.
Old metal one. And this one here is from a Warrior Priest of the Empire, of the Free People. So Mini Warrior is going into the draw. So good job there, Mini Warrior. More guesses came in after that, but you're too late, so I'm not even going to read them.
Well done, Mini Warrior. Quality.
Well done indeed. So, Mr. Rem, I believe it's going to be your turn to make a What the Hell Is That next week.
It is.
And people have actually commented that your What the Hell Is That
a better? Maybe?
I'm not going to say better. I'm going to say infuriatingly difficult.
Well, you know what? When I started doing them, they were too easy. So I thought, I'm not going to let you guys off lightly. Being the grand nerds that you are, I thought I should make it suitably difficult. And you know what? We're saving all these What the Hell Is That? Because, you know, one day we could create a whole army of beasts that look just like the What the Hell Is That?
In theory, we could do that, yes. It sounds like a lot of work, though.
Well, yes, it does, actually. Well, maybe we could write the rules for them.
Yes.
Or maybe you could write the rules for them.
Mini Warrior has chimed in with an excellent observation, if you ask me. He says, Andy has more characterful, goofy. What the hell is that?
Maybe. Or maybe
I think it's my superior Photoshop skills.
Or maybe they're just sort of quicker and easy to do. Kind of like a McDonald's version. Whereas mine are more like the sort of 3-course meal.
You could probably eat a 3-course meal in the time it takes someone to figure out one of your What the Hell Is That? Definitely.
Well, you know what? As I'm talking, I'm just taking some screenshots of one of the preliminary designs of my second $1 million idea tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
So hold your breath. Yeah, keep your hair on, because this one is going to blow your mind.
Do you have a theme song for it as well?
No, because we're still writing lyrics for it, aren't we?
Well, while you're preparing that, I think we can look at some of the miniatures that our audience have posted in the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group this week.
Wow. Yes.
So, here we go. Starting off with this guy from Andrew Judd. Now, he did point out that this miniature, although it is the one that was free on White Dwarf, this specific one isn't. He actually painted this way in advance. He didn't get this done in the short period of time after White Dwarf was released.
Now, Andy, that model is just too well painted to feature on this show. I mean...
You're saying he makes us look bad?
Yeah, it kind of puts me off wanting to paint. It's amazing, mate. And the base
is pretty damn sweet. You know, I'm actually thinking of doing, if I ever get some corn models, I'm thinking of making them look like before the battle they tip like a bucket of blood over their heads before they go out into battle. So like completely blood-covered head and blood trickling down the torso and everything.
I mean, on that note, it looks way better to me than the GW ones, because the GW ones are always nice and cleanly painted, aren't they? But this is like more how you'd imagine a blood gore champion to look like, a slaughter priest, right? A bit gooey with, you know, blood and guts. And he definitely got that vibe going. I don't want to be on the end of that chain hammer he's got there.
Yeah, they don't like it up him, it's safe to say. Moving on, this is from Lee Ascroft. Now, these aren't finished, but I thought these were quite fun to look at anyway. These are gorilla orcs. They're like gorilla orcs. So he's green stuffed fur onto them.
So this is basically like a King Kong themed army.
Something like that, yes.
I love it. It's like Planet of the Apes / King Kong.
I really hope he does a giant in this style as well.
So it's brilliant. He's got bone splitters, and then I think the green stuff, he's put it on and like giving it this like furry hide effect.
Yes.
Especially on the heads as well, giving them the kind of like long heads that an ape has got.
Well, there you go, folks. Confirmation. Remington is a fan of the furry hide.
Yes.
There we go.
Now, how would they be different from bone splitters, do you think, generally speaking?
Well, I would say they could have an extra save for the hair.
Jab on hair? Not sure about that. Maybe they could move faster? Or what about having a leap attack? Or they knock you over and they like, do you know how apes go, whoa, and then they like smash down on your chest like that, don't they? I saw the new Planet of the Apes film the other day, and that's how they fight.
Maybe.
What do you call that? Bludgeon. It's like a bludgeon.
Put that one out to the audience, see what they think. What kind of special rules do you think for ape orcs? Now, this is from Carl Malin or Malin, which is, now this guy, what's his name again? Is it Festus?
Festus the Leech Lord.
Yeah, that's it. He's pouring his toxic goo into someone's mouth there. Now, melting him away.
If you read the end times, Festus was responsible for killing the king of Bretonia by pouring acid on his face and scarring him for, well, what remained of his soon-to-be ending life.
Oh, this is very nice, though, isn't it? Especially like the acid and blood leaking out of this guy's intestines onto the ice and water there. That's a very nice touch.
Now, do you think the guy in the bathtub attached to his back should have like some special rules?
Like what?
Maybe he could throw limbs at people.
Okay.
Or, shout things that makes them suffer bravery tests.
Okay, but maybe he has a weakness as well, because if you get to within 3 inches of them on a 4+, you can turn on the cold tap, which makes him go, ooh! Fair trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. Sam Jones, Stormcast here. Now, I think the gold I do on my Stormcast looks quite good, but this is obviously the next level up, at least.
I like that kind of fishy scale effect he's got on that chainmail loincloth.
They are very, very tasty. I shouldn't really show these pictures because I'm trying to make people believe that my Stormcast are amazing.
They are tasty. A little bit of spice, you could definitely eat them.
And I like the blue as well. The different shades of blue and the little white dots. You can tell someone's a pro when they use tiny white dots in weird places on the model, can't you?
It looks very precious.
It does. So, top notch there. And another one here. This is Benjamin Hopkins. More Stormcast goodness. Now, the one thing that jumps out at me here immediately is this banner with the stars on it. Look at that. That's quite amazing, isn't it? Look at that zoom image we've got here.
I forgot all about that Stormcast character with the flag.
It's actually quite good. I think I'm going to get one. I think I'm going to get him and the guy with the trumpet at some point.
What does the flag guy do? Does he like wave it and then they all go, yay?
Now, I haven't looked at the war scrolls in the last few days, but I think the banners have some kind of attack behind them, whereas the trumpet guy can kind of call your own men to move faster or something. It's something like that. But look at these lightning strikes on the spear tips as well.
Wow. They're brilliant. I like the helmets. Look at the helmets. It's like a lead belcher and gold mix. Makes them look a little bit more human.
It does actually. It separates the face plate from everything else a little bit, doesn't it? Again, some of this stuff, next level. And with that, Mr. Rem, is your $1 million idea ready yet?
Yes, it is. And Bazooka J. Rambo has written a fantastic verse to the soon-to-be $1 million idea song. So maybe I should sing it to you in a little made-up melody that has just come out of my brain.
Maybe you should.
It's $1 million idea out of the brain of Rem and to your ear, blowing your mind with rapturous cheer. It's a Remington $1 million idea. Whop.
Whop.
Ka-ching.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, let me hear the idea. Let me hear the idea. It kind of rhymes.
In fact, before you do it, with a new addition to the $1 million idea segments, people in the audience type in the value of the idea. There you go.
Okay, up to $1 million. Dollars or pounds? This one's certainly pounds. Now, Mickey Denver suggested a really interesting idea. when we got through the discussions and the kind of tirade of interest in dusting, and she recommended a dusting brush, and she's shown some pictures of her doing some dusting with that brush, and it looked very, very effective. And we talked about a device that's commonly used in home decorating. Let's put it that way. And Mickey Jenver said a roller, and then the cogs of my brain started working. And over the next few days, I took it into the development stage and into a more practical stage, and I have a visual for you guys. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the world of the Remington roller. And here it goes.
Remington roller.
Now, we've all struggled with our paintbrushes, forking and fraying and drying up. But let's discard the idea of the paintbrush. What about a mini roller? So think about base coating your silver towers, base coating your realm gates, using a roller instead of a paintbrush. Simply pour a small drop or two of your base coat onto your palette and roll away. And once you have a liberal amount of paint on the roller, apply to miniature. It's especially useful with flat surfaces, but I'm going to develop a line of these that have grooves in them that will go into the grooves of your miniature. Very simple, effective and time-saving way of base coating and perhaps highlighting and layering your miniatures. It's specifically been designed not to be used by GW because I've trademarked it, or Andy 2D6 because he will inevitably try and steal my idea and give it to said GW. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present the Remington roller. And I have a working model for you somewhere. Let me just get that up.
Now, the one thing I really like about that image is that the text wasn't properly aligned to the roller.
Yeah, that's part of it, really. That's deliberate, that is.
I should hope so. Although I have got to disappoint you. I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think Duncan may have already used this off camera. You know those videos he did on the big New Realm of Battle boards? He poured the paint out onto the board, and then there was a cut, and then we came back and it was all painted. I think he may have used the Remington roller and not the video.
Well, I mean, you know, he hasn't got rights on thinking, has he? You know, and he's definitely not thought of the Remington Woodsman's whitewash. But I'm trying to get this picture up for you guys because it's really good. And it's anyway, basically, it'll come to me later on, but it's basically a working model of the Remington roller because you probably look at that and you're still thinking about home decorating, all right? And that's a big one. The one I'm thinking of is the size of your thumbnail. Yeah? And you'll kind of use it with two fingers and gently roll up and down. It's especially good with shields.
I think you could actually produce those. If people bought them, I'm not sure whether that would happen, but you could definitely create them. Let's see what kind of value people put on this idea. So we've got maybe $1 from Skeleton Flower.
$1?
Mini Warrior says you'll have to pay him something. I think he's put £10 million before he would use a roller. So it's like gone into the negative, that idea of him. YouTube Newbie says €5.
Hey, listen, if it's €5 each, that's fine. You know, but I'm going to be selling hundreds of thousands of these. Yeah? Times that by €5, my dear. What do you get?
A lot of euros, potentially. Okay, so people have been feverishly sweating away in anticipation of this upcoming segment. And I'm going to share this image to prepare everyone for it. Here we go. Bum, bum, bum. Look at that. It is the Forest of Rem.
So
Look
my
at that.
favourite.
Beautiful.
This is the first ever fighting fantasy book that I bought.
So how do you feel about being part of the first ever Forest of Rem Choose Your Own Adventure?
I would say I could probably look a little more heroic and a little less Vulcan, but I'll go with it anyway.
Maybe on a future cover. When we complete this adventure, this could actually roll over to multiple episodes because it could be so epic. And people could give suggestions in the permanent comments after the show for where this story could go. So I don't think people want to stare at that the whole time we're doing the story. So let's stop sharing that, shall we? Now, let's set the scene, shall we? Mr. Remington, who should be seated here, say hello.
I'm here. Hello.
Mr. Remington will be playing the part of it's a part that's very close to his heart. It's a kind of a travelling, mischievous bard who has found himself in a strange and unfamiliar location, in a set of circumstances that will tax his very being and put all his resourcefulness and wit and cunning to the test as he battles monsters, traps, treasures. I suppose he doesn't have to battle the treasure unless it wants to actually fight him, which some of it might. If people suggest it, it may find its way into the story. So, if anyone has any suggestions as we're going through this story, you can drop them in the comments as well, and they may well get worked into the narrative. So, and Mr. Remington, of course, at the end of each paragraph, when there's a decision to be made, then he will obviously go over his options with the audience and see what people are thinking and ponder in his mind and verbally as well what he should do next.
So the audience are like the voices in my head. Kind of like the think tank. But not
in addition to the voices that are already in your head. So,
okay.
Wandering Bard Remington awakens in an unfamiliar bed. 'Tis soft, but damp, so not too unfamiliar. Remington turns, and the sight that assails his eyeballs fills him with dread and shock and terror. A slain gentleman, whom he recognizes immediately as his old music mentor, Ted. Ted has been hideously mutilated, guts, intestines spilled across the bed, explaining at least the majority of the moisture that Remington felt about his person. Ted was cold to the touch, clearly dead. He'd been dead for quite some time. Mr. Remington knew not how he got here, although, as he peered up, the door to his chamber slammed shut, and footsteps scurried away down the corridor. Mr. Remington, choose your next action wisely. Will you search the body of Ted for clues? Will you search the room? Or will you give chase to the mysterious figure?
I don't know. Let's look at the comments, but it all sounds like a wet dream. Or a bad dream, I mean.
It's certainly quite wet. Freddie says it's the worst room service.
Yeah, that's not that helpful at the minute. Suddenly, Rem heard ka-ka-ka-ka. Search for clues, Bazooka J. Rambo says. Well, is that an option? It is an option.
You can search the room, you can search the body, or you can give chase.
I shall search the body. Who knows? There might be £1 million idea lurking within this body.
Okay. The bard Remington pushes his trusty mandolin aside, which had been lying down between the two bodies, of course. Places it carefully on the floor. Reaches for Ted, when suddenly Ted's limp, lifeless body sits bolt upright in the bed. Remington is, of course, taken aback. Ted's head swivels instantly 90 degrees and stares deep into Remington's soul and utters the words, "Remington, my boy, you have a mighty quest ahead of you. Search my gizzards for the answers you seek. He then collapses back onto the bed, lifeless as ever.
Do I have to roll a skill test?
If you want to search Ted's gizzards, then you will have to roll the dice.
Okay.
If you don't have to search them, if you're too creeped out by the whole thing, you can just leave now and pursue the mysterious assailant still, whose footsteps you can hear other doors closing as if he's passing through various doors. He's not very fast.
Do I have any rubber gloves with me in my backpack?
You do not. At the moment, all you have is a small loincloth. Your clothes are on the floor.
Okay, I'm going to thrust my hands into his gizzard, have a feel around, and then wipe it off with the loincloth.
Okay, then. Well, Thomas thought you should have given chase, but too late for that now. So, Remington thrusts his hand into the cold, filth-encrusted gizzards of his former mentor. Roll the die.
Here we go. I don't even know what I need to roll, but let's just see what happens. Remington! Two.
Is that the sound effect for a 2 on the dice?
I don't know where that effect came from, man. That was really weird. Maybe it is real. Oh, what does a 2 give me?
2.
2
Remington.
pieces of gold?
Remington forages through the intestines, pushes aside the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the bladder, until, after several minutes, he reaches what feels like a small, hard substance that is not bone. He rips it forth, splattering blood and ooze across his face. Wiping one eye clean, he sees that the item before him is a small amulet. On the back, engraved, is the word Remington in all caps.
It sounds like it's a $1 million idea encased in stone. What else could it be? But
Well,
how did I crack it open?
Well, that's not the end of this scene, you see. As Remington pockets the amulet after wiping it off on his loincloth, which is the only thing he's currently wearing, Remington hears what he can only assume is an innkeeper in a deep, booming voice bellow, "Oh, you, come back here!" and followed by another slamming door, suggesting that if you leave to give chase now, maybe you'll be able to catch something. Maybe it's totally unrelated, nothing to do with the person who slammed the door. So your choices are, do you now bolt out the door? Do you inspect the amulet further? Or do you get dressed?
Is there a sink where I can wash my hands?
No. You're in what seems to be a middle of the nowhere, filthy tavern, essentially.
Okay, let's just chase him like a streaker madman.
Okay, in your blood-stained undergarments, you're really going to give chase?
I don't even know where I am. Where am I?
You seem to be at an inn.
An inn, like in the oldie world inn?
Yes.
All right, I'll just give chase. But maybe can I pick up a weapon and give chase?
Well, you don't see any weapons nearby apart from your old trusty mandolin.
I'll take the mandolin in one hand and I'll take the stone in the other, and I shall give chase with my loincloth flapping in the breeze.
Very well. Remington opens the door. As it creaks open, he sees bloody footsteps running down the corridor, leading towards a main chamber with a fireplace. The flames flickering in the darkness, a couple of shadowy figures perched around tables, and an angry innkeeper shaking his fist towards what appears to be the front door. Doors between Remington and this point are slowly creaking shut, as if they were hurriedly opened and not properly closed behind. Remington begins to step down the corridor, following the bloody footsteps, reaching the main chamber, when the innkeeper turns to him and says, "Oi, what's going on in there, mate?" Do you converse with the innkeeper? Do you ignore him and push on to the front door? What's it going to be?
Is there no way back to retrieve my clothes?
If you really wanted to waste all that time and now go back to retrieve your clothes, then I suppose you could.
Let's see what the audience say.
By the
Hang
way,
on.
at the moment there is a breeze running through this room because of all the open doors, and the loincloth is billowing up a little bit.
Tell the barmaid you have gunk on your hand and your tip is in your loincloth, but she will have to retrieve it. Actually, your money is in your shoe. Ulrich, love God, I can see why you're such a ladies' man. I think I shall just ignore this pesky peasant innkeeper, and I shall run past him and chase these demons.
Well, I never said they were demons.
No.
Very well. Remington ignores the cries of the innkeeper, forces the door open, bursts through it. The innkeeper shouts various obscenities after him, which don't dare be repeated on this show. As you open the door, the sun blinds you temporarily, Remington. As the light fades and your eyes grow accustomed to it, you begin to see that all around you, luscious plant life. You are clearly in the realm of life, but you do not recall how you got there, nor how you found this inn. You see a small cloaked figure heading into the trees. Do you shout after it, or do you continue to give chase and wallop it with your mandolin?
Could there be a third way? Perhaps.
Well, if the audience have another suggestion, then feel free.
Give chase or shout at him. What would I shout?
Stop.
Stop, it's me, Remington. I have your stone in my loincloth.
YouTube Newbie has a suggestion for you. Remove loincloth, cover face with loincloth. Bazooka J. Rambo thinks you chase and wallop it.
Chase and wallop it, but then I'd have to do a dice roll, really, to determine whether my skill matches that task. I shall do that. Any excuse to roll the Remington dice. Let's do it. Let's clobber him.
Very well. Remington begins his journey into the forest, leaping almost effortlessly across roots and fallen branches and leaves and various undergrowth-related items. Roll the die, Remington, to see if you can actually navigate this area successfully before reaching your prey.
Now, do I need a high roll or a low roll?
You're always looking for a high roll.
Okay, here we go. Remington! 4.
It's a 4. That's pretty good. Remington successfully bounds through the undergrowth, catching up with his cloaked target. He winds back his arm, muscle and sinew rippling in the breeze, the loincloth being lifted up towards his chest in the wind. He attempts to swing down the mandolin with all his might atop the head of his stricken adversary. Roll the die.
Remington! 5.
Well, the mandolin makes contact and a loud squelch is heard. The cloaked figure collapses in a bloody heap, brains oozing into the forest.
+1 experience.
Very well, you may have +1 experience, whatever that is. Okay, so you have just clobbered and probably murdered possibly the only witness to whatever happened to your musical mentor, possibly. Would you like to roll over the body and see if you can identify its bloody remains? Would you like to search the body, or would you like to just leave it there?
Well, in my experience, it's always worth searching someone with a great beard because there's always bits and bobs to be found in the wiry mane. I shall search the body.
Okay, it is face down at the moment, though.
Roll him over.
Okay, he's going to roll him over and search the body. Roll the die.
Remington. 3.
3. As you turn over the body, a slight trickle of blood pours down the neck. You then look up to find where the face once was is now merely a caved-in mass of shattered bones and torn flesh and small splinters of mandolin and a string. On searching the body, not the face because it's mangled, on searching the cloak, delving your hands within it, you uncover a fold of parchment. On the parchment seems to be a map. But it is no ordinary map. For instead of text denoting locations, there is some kind of strange code in a language unbeknownst to the Remington. Do you immediately start reading the map and attempt to ascertain its meaning? Do you try to identify the species of the creature you have walloped, or do you return to the inn?
Oh, should let the audience decide. Right. First one to answer. Use map as loincloth. Is it written in Swedish? The body is Matt Ward. Are you sure it's not the plans for the Remington roller?
You are fairly sure of that, yes.
I shall go with Bazooka J. Rambo and read the map.
Very well.
And not with Stephen's suggestion, which was make intense love with said body.
Yes, that's probably a terrible idea. Remington casts a curious eye across the parchment, attempting to decipher its meaning, identifying particular landmarks, including the inn whence he came. So you have identified the inn on the map. You now have some idea that somewhere within the forest there stands a tower, a cave, and a river. You're able to determine that, but each one is labelled, and you're unable to tell exactly what any of it means at the moment. So, are you going to immediately head to one of these destinations, or are you going to return to the inn?
I'm not going back there.
You're not going back for your clothes?
There's evil in that bar.
There were people there, though.
No, I shall travel on courageously with my wits and the remnants of my mandolin.
And the remnants of your loincloth.
Mm-hmm.
And
to head towards the river.
Well, you think you want to head towards the river, but I think, Mr. Remington, that we're going to wrap up episode 1 of Choose Your Own Adventure.
That's a cliffhanger.
The Forest of Rem, right there. And in the permanent comments after the show, I think people can suggest which of those 3 destinations you should go for. Or if anyone thinks you should actually change your mind and head straight back to the inn, then feel free to suggest that as well.
I like this, Andy. This is good job, man.
There we go. Episode 1 in the bag.
I'm engaged.
Right, so you can't miss next week, folks, because it's going to get even juicier. What is this amulet all about? Why is the word Remington inscribed on it? What happened to Ted, who was the mysterious clobbered to death figure that Remington didn't bother to interrogate?
No, because I mashed up his head, so I couldn't recognize him.
Yeah, you didn't know your own strength.
But he was a thief. And a liar.
You think?
I don't know, but if you check your messages, Andy, on Facebook, you will find I have sent you the prototype for Remington's roller.
Oh, God.
And I think in the outro, perhaps that can be the final image.
I think it can be. I'm going to line that up right now, actually.
Now, just to make sure, I thought of this first with a little help from Mickey Genver, 5%.
Only 5%?
5%, 5% of £1 million. I'll take that, Andy.
Okay. Right then.
And free entry into RemCon. All right then.
Let's have a look at it then. So, Mr. Rem, are you prepared to deliver the outro song for this week and leave the audience in utter suspense?
Okay, I'll do my best.
Here we go.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. And I hope you like the ideas on the show. And I'm sure you'll agree. The future is roller.
Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to check out Blightforge. Don't forget the Andy and Rem Battle Report Patreon. Don't forget the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group.
Choose your own adventure. What will happen to Rem? Choose your own adventure. Be one of those fighting fantasy men.
Or women.
Choose your own adventure. It's certainly something good. Choose your own adventure, just like Robin Hood and his merry men on the attack, fighting for justice. There's no turning back. Choose your own adventure on the Andy and Remington Show. Choose your own adventure. It's what you need to know. Choose your own adventure. It's really something good. It's not ripped off from fighting fantasy. It's from the hood. Choose your own adventure.